Hey, Mike with No Problems Gaming here. In today's video, we'll be going through 7 new Nintendo eShop sale games worth buying, so let's get into it. So a couple things before we jump into the video. At the time of filming, all of these games are on sale, so if you like what you see, you should be able to pick them up at a discount. But at the same time, all of these are great games, so whether you see them on sale now or in the future, or you want to pick them up at full price, I definitely think they're great games and worth playing. Also, if there's games I missed on this list or other games on sale I should pick up, let me know in the comments below. I may not have played them yet, and I'm always looking to add great games to my massive backlog. But with that said, let's jump into the list. So the first game on the list is Dicey Dungeons. Now this is a unique concept that's kind of a combination of a deck building game / dice building game with a dungeon crawler, and the premise is pretty unique where you're playing as different characters on a game show that have been turned into dice. And so in order to hopefully restore your characters, you need to make it through various levels of dungeons in your dice form and using your character's abilities to make it through. And so there's a bunch of different types of characters that you can play as, and many of them fit kind of classic RPG character types. So for example, you have warriors, you have thieves, but then there's also some other unique characters like inventors and robots that have even more unique abilities that you can take on these various dungeons. And so again, like I said, you'll encounter a lot of different monster fights, and each character type has their own unique abilities, but when you enter battle, you'll basically roll a handful of dice, and then depending on what character you're using, you'll use these dice to activate various abilities. So again, some of them might be just kind of a regular melee attack or using a type of weapon you have equipped, while other characters might be using a spell. The list kind of goes on and on. But again, you'll use your dice that you've rolled on the various abilities. So again, maybe you need an even die and you'll activate an ability. Or again, maybe another one you need a 5 or higher to activate an ability. Or the higher die you roll, the more damage you'll do. Or the more you'll heal yourself. And so it's a pretty cool concept. And so you'll start off with some basic abilities and basic equipment, which basically give you this deck of cards that you can use as you go through the fights. But again, as you can progress, you'll be able to upgrade these cards, upgrade these abilities to make them more powerful. You'll find new ones. You'll actually be able to go to shops hidden throughout these dungeons to upgrade your characters and much more. And so for each one of the characters, there's a bunch of different floors that you can go through, or basically versions of this dungeon that you can attempt to go through. And it kind of has a roguelike feel to it as well, where it's a different experience every time you go through the dungeon. And you'll have different challenges associated with that depending on the character that you're using. So each form of these characters really has their own unique feel and gameplay style. And so I think if you like dungeon crawling, if you like deck building or rolling dice games like Dungeons and Dragons, I think you'll really like this game. Plus it has a quirky art style and fun sense of humor as well. But it's on sale right now and I definitely recommend it. Alright, the next game on the list is Dreamscaper. And so I reviewed this game a while back on the channel, but it's a really cool roguelike action RPG where you play as a young girl that has moved to a new city but is dealing with a lot of grief in her life as well. And so I won't go into why that is because that's a big part of the storyline that you'll slowly reveal, but it's a pretty cool concept where during the day you'll be able to explore the town, start to develop relationships and friendships throughout the city with various people around town. Some of them you work with, some of them you meet at the park, others you meet at the record store. And so as you develop more of these relationships, each time you go in to see them, you'll be able to unlock new aspects of your character. So basically you can equip the personality or abilities, whatnot, of one of these characters that you meet in the town, and it gives you extra benefits as you go through the dungeon. And then as your relationship deepens, the benefits that you get from that character being equipped improve as well. Now on top of that, there's a bunch of different weapons and items that you'll find throughout the dungeon, spells that you can use, abilities that you have, and then as you progress, you kind of dream up these new ideas that you can unlock in future runs throughout the dungeon. Now it's kind of cool because again, this young girl is going through a lot of grief and dealing with those type of emotions, and so a lot of the enemy bosses feature that as well. So maybe you're fighting a boss that's like anger or fear or regret, different things like that. And so it's cool how that ties into the dream world, but then that also reflects into the real world as well. And so it's kind of a deep concept. It's a little dark, but it definitely keeps the gameplay fresh and it's super addicting trying to get through and unlock all the items, the spells, the abilities, build all the relationships up, and then also trying to get through the different dungeon levels as well. The game is pretty difficult, but there is some easier settings that you can turn on, kind of assist you along your way. But if you're looking for a fun, unique roguelike experience, experience, I definitely recommend it. Alright, the next game on the list is the Mega Man Zero ZX Legacy Collection. Now I actually picked up a physical copy of this because I'm a huge Mega Man fan, but it is on sale right now in the eShop, and I definitely recommend it. You get 6 games within this collection, which is huge, especially since a lot of these games are incredibly hard to get these days. The games originally came out on like the Game Boy Advance, the DS, those various systems, and so again, trying to find physical copies of these games can be pretty challenging these days, but with this collection you're able to get all of them in one. Now one thing that I really liked about this collection is the fact that you can play with the Nintendo Pro controller. Like I had mentioned, a lot of these games came out on the DS or the Game Boy Advance, depending on what game you're talking about, and the Mega Man Zero games in general play a lot like the Mega Man X series, which are really fast-paced action platformers. And so for me, a lot of the times playing on a tiny Game Boy Advance system or the DS, where the buttons were pretty far spread out, it made it quite challenging to pull off some of the intense moves you need to be able to do to beat these games. On top of that, the Mega Man Zero games in general are incredibly challenging, even without the difficult control schemes, so being able to play them with a modern controller all in one place is a huge benefit. If you like challenging action platforming games similar to the Mega Man X series, I definitely recommend checking out this collection. Plus it's on sale, so that's always a great bonus. Alright, the next game on the list is Resident Evil Zero. Now for a lot of people, they maybe haven't played this game within the Resident Evil series. It's actually a prequel to the original Resident Evil game. It came out originally on the GameCube, and I actually talked about this recently in my top 15 best GameCube games video. Now what's really cool about this game, again, it's a prequel to the first Resident Evil game, and so in this game, you play as Rebecca Chambers and Billy Cohen as they investigate some gruesome murders occurring just outside of Raccoon City. And so Rebecca is a new STARS member, and when she goes to investigate these murders, encounters Billy Cohen, who's actually a convicted felon and ex-Marine. And so they reluctantly team up to take on this zombie outbreak, and the game features a cool new game mechanic where you're switching between characters on the fly. And really up to this point, in most Resident Evil games, you would play through as one character fully, and then you would play through the other character highlighted in the game, but seeing the entire game from their perspective and through their scenario. Where in Resident Evil Zero, you're able to switch back and forth between the characters pretty much whenever you want. And so it leads to some unique puzzle solving where maybe you're boosting one character to a higher level, or you're switching between characters because they can only use certain types of weapons, or one might be holding a weapon that you need at the time, and on and on. You'll face off against some new unique bioweapons in this game as well, like a giant scorpion, and super creepy genetically modified leeches that attack people and turn them into zombies. But overall, it's definitely one of my favorite games in the Resident Evil series. It's one of my favorite GameCube games, and they've remastered it and released it on Nintendo Switch. And like I said, it's on sale right now and definitely worth picking up. Alright, the next game on the list is Cuphead. Now this was a huge popular game a few years back. It's still definitely a great game. It's a super challenging action platforming game that plays similar to games like Contra or Mega Man, where there'll be various different action platforming stages, but then also full-on boss fights. Now one thing that's really cool about the game is the fact that it's all hand-drawn animation, which gives it a really cool, unique feel to the game. Now many people have talked about it being one of the hardest games ever, and I definitely agree it's challenging, but if you're used to playing old school Mega Man games, I don't think it's really that much different. Eventually you learn the patterns and develop the skills to take on these bosses. It certainly is challenging, but it's super rewarding once you get to beat the various bosses throughout the game. Now I know this game has been out for a while, but they're actually releasing more DLC for the game, which has really been hyped up for years, and it's finally coming out. So I think this is as great a time as any to pick up this classic action platforming game if you haven't yet. They also just came out with a Cuphead show on Netflix, so that could be something worth checking out as well. And I'm sure once you watch that, you're going to want to play the game, so just another reason to pick it up. Plus it's on sale, so if not now, when? But it's one of my favorite action platforming games in recent years, and I definitely recommend it. Alright, the next game on the list is the Mega Man X Legacy Collection Part 1. And so both parts in this collection are on sale right now, but for me, I really like the Part 1 of the Mega Man X Legacy Collection the best. It features Mega Man X 1 through 4, and in my opinion, I really think that those are the best in the series. Certainly the later games are fun, but they definitely, in my opinion, don't hold up to the original 4. And so in these games, you play as Mega Man X, who is a futuristic version of Mega Man that was really the last creation from Dr. Light. And so at this point, robots have been created that are self-aware, that can think for themselves, and unfortunately, many go maverick or go rogue rogue and turn on their human masters. And so Mega Man X teams up with some other Maverick hunters to take out these evil robots and their leader Sigma. It plays similar to the original Mega Man series, where you'll be able to choose from various robot masters, but on top of that there's some more enhancements to the game where you can find various armor pieces like a Mega Buster upgrade, boots that allow you to dash, armor that can absorb damage and release a shock blast, and a helmet that can smash through bricks. On top of that, there's heart containers you can find throughout the levels that permanently increase your health bar. So it starts off pretty small, but progressively as you can collect more, your life bar becomes just as big as the enemy robots. There's even some hidden secrets within the game that allow you to do the Hadouken from Street Fighter and the Dragon Punch from Street Fighter in Mega Man X2 and much more. Plus in Mega Man X4 you're finally able to play the game as Zero, so there's a whole game playing as Zero and then also a game playing as Mega Man X, and so it's really cool to get that experience to be able to play through using your Z-Saber versus the Mega Buster. But it features many of my favorite Mega Man X games and I definitely recommend it. Alright, the last game on the list is the Mega Man Legacy Collection Part 1. So again, I'm a huge Mega Man fan if you can't figure it out, but most importantly, this features the first 6 games in the series, and I think those are really the best in the series, to be honest. Mega Man 9 and 10 are great, but to me, I feel like Mega Man 7 and 8 were a bit of a letdown compared to some of the early games in the series. So again, both parts of the Legacy Collection are on sale, so certainly pick them up if you haven't played them. They're still great games, but I prefer the first 6 in the series compared to some of the other later ones in the original Mega Man storyline. And so again, throughout many of these games, you're playing as Mega Man taking on Dr. Wily, who's a rogue scientist that is trying to use robots to take over the world. And pretty much each Mega Man game is some type of version of that storyline. And so again, it's an action platforming game where you play as Mega Man, and in many of them you have the help of your trusty robot dog Rush, and you'll be able to choose from various different robot masters. And then the game features more of a rock paper scissors mechanic, where once you defeat one of the bosses, you'll absorb their power and you'll be able to use it for the rest of the game. And typically there's a single boss that is weak against that power. And so once you've taken out one boss, if you know the pattern or learn the pattern of weaknesses of the other bosses, it becomes quick work to take them all out. And then you'll take on Wily in his various forms of Wily Castles, using all of the power-ups you've acquired throughout the earlier game. The Mega Man games are some of my favorite games of all time. It's a great collection. It features some of the best in the series, and I definitely recommend it. But again, these are 7 great new Nintendo eShop games on sale. I've had a blast playing them, and I definitely recommend them if you like what you see. And if you like videos like this on video games, board games, and everything nerdy, be sure to check out one of our other videos. And if you haven't done so yet, be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell notifications to get the latest updates of new nerd videos we put out. But once again, thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you more soon.